All right. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, great. All right, let me just introduce myself. My name is Richard Lownthal. I am co-founder and CEO of GoBrunch. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how can we engage more with our students? How can we create a culture of interaction? And I just want to know a little bit more about you. I really appreciate if you could tell us what do you teach, and if you are just a student, you just say, I am a student. Just use the chat box if you want. Just to let me know a little bit more about you, if you teach, if you present. Let me know more about each one of you. I can see here Iris. Iris is a teacher. That's great. Okay. Solveig is a teacher. Okay, that's great. Perfect. And let me ask you, what do you teach? I'm teacher 2 from IT. Okay, how about you, Iris, Solveig? What do you teach? Perfect. All right, and let me ask you a last question. What is the main challenge that you are facing in teaching online? Or at least, what is the main challenge that you are facing? Yes, yes, Iris just said here, getting students to interact. And that's exactly, I think, what, yeah, all the teachers have been saying all around the world. It's been a really, really tough moment, and a tough moment that we are living. And interacting with students, it's a really, really big deal. And how can we create a culture of interaction? And we're gonna show some basic tips and basic knowledge that we have been gathering across many webinars that we have been watching, virtual classes that can be used in your classes, in your sessions. Okay, the first thing we want to show is that in order to get interaction, there are two main aspects that we need to keep in mind. The first one is to create motivation with the students, to try to understand their passions and how can we get them to participate more. It's not about just, it's not about only about the content, but what kind of passion this student has, why this student is there, and try to understand a little bit better in order to formulate, to elaborate your questions. And the second one is, what kind of expectation do you have for this student, and make this clear, because sometimes we start a session, and this especially online, and the students don't know exactly what you expect from them in terms of interaction. And once you let it more clear, you you develop more engagement with your audience. And I'm going to show here a map, an interaction map that we have developed. There are many, as you can see, tips here that we can use there before, during, and after our class. The first one, as I mentioned, is to try to understand better the students' purpose and passions in order to bring these passions during the class and create some engagement. Then there are some basic stuff that I know many people are neglecting. For example, speak the name of the students all the time. Just like I did now, we can see here Iris, Solveig. Not sure if I can pronunciate right, but Hefna, Des, right? And it's very important to speak their names, because probably all of you are doing a lot of things at the same time. You're checking your email, you are just, checking your stuff. Sometimes these students are just getting, inside the kitchen to grab something to eat. And if we keep constantly saying their names, speaking their names, they feel like I might be the next person. And yeah, that creates a little bit more of engagement with them. Another thing that we have been observing is the lack of expectation in terms of interaction. It's very important at the beginning of your class that you make some statement. What do you expect them? How do you expect them to interact? Do you expect them to interact using the microphone, the camera? And as soon as they leave the session, do you want them to let you know something like, okay, guys, just give me a minute. I'm just going to grab something in the kitchen, or I'm going to the bathroom, and just make it clear how you want them to behave during your classroom. And that will make it easier, because I'm not sure if that happens to you, but sometimes I see many teachers doing something like, so Vika, can you answer this question for me? What is your opinion about this topic? And then you don't hear nothing, because for some reason this person is not there, or it's not hearing. And that creates a little bit of embarrassment in many classes that we have been seeing around. And as soon as you align this expectation, you just introduce a little bit better how you want them to behave during your classes, you can definitely minimize these kind of situations. After that, start your class with the case, business case, or a situation, a scenario, a question, anything that can warm up your session and make your students start engaging right in the beginning. Do not expect them to just start interacting in the middle, because if you start a lecture and speaking, they get used to do another things during your lecture. And if you start in a very engaging way, like you can start with a breakout session, you can start with a as I mentioned here, something like a case study, something like this, that definitely creates more engagement at the beginning of your class. Another thing that we are encouraging everyone, and this is particular from GoBrunch that we're gonna speak a little bit briefly, is instead of the student turns on his or her microphone, you as a teacher can turn his or her microphone instead. This is very interesting because it's faster. You can say, I want your opinion, and you just click on the microphone to turn it on. I know it's not possible in some platforms, but it really creates more agility in terms of interaction. I'm gonna show you an example in a few minutes. Another thing is to spend your time co-construction, co-building, co-constructing with your student. Try to use a whiteboard, anything that you feel comfortable with. And yeah, try to draw your class instead of just showing slides. In the past, as you know, if you have like a traditional classroom, you used to have like the material, and people used to keep writing down, and that, would keep them engaged in the classroom. Right now, even if you have a traditional classroom, they are attending using their laptops. And since they are using their devices, laptops or mobile phones or tablets, we never know what this person is doing, if they are paying attention, if they are just chatting somewhere else. And if you start to co-construct with them in a whiteboard, in a blackboard, anything, and speak all the time to them, it might be very, very useful. And then I just repeating a lot of sentences here, like speak their name constantly, which is very important all the time, just the way I'm gonna do now. If you can hear me, Iris, Sobe, Refna, Tess, because we are just getting their attention constantly. And once you get, I don't know if you have a break in your classes, but if you have try to develop something like an empathy with casual conversations. You can add music, why not? And just try to connect with them in a different way. And then after your class, another thing that I see that it's pretty rare to happen is to attend other teachers' classes. Let me ask you this. How often do you attend other teachers' classes in order to, see how they teach, if it's different, if it's not? What do you say? How often do you attend another teacher's sessions? Not often, okay. Yeah, and that's not something that happens only to you. It's something that we don't have time, right? We have to pick our priorities every single day. But if you attend other teacher sessions, I'm pretty sure we are always learning something new. We can learn how they do, how they act, everything. And that might inspire us in some small topics that small points that we can improve in our own sessions, in our own classes. And yes, and then talk a little bit about GoBrunch. GoBrunch is an initiative that we created back to 2017. We launched GoBrunch because we had a dream, and this dream was to add more social elements inside webinars and virtual classrooms. And yeah, we even before the pandemic, I felt that we were isolated inside the webinars and the classrooms, and we wanted just to create a more warm environment for everyone, for all the students and teachers and presenters, and that motivated us to create a different platform. And this is just a look and feel of a webinar or a classroom. As you can see, there's this interesting approach where you can see all the attendees or all the students. You can share a screen, of course, but the main thing is like showing everything that is happening and not only the presentation and not only the cameras. You can just feel like you are inside a virtual seminar room. And that's the main sensation that you want to bring inside the screen. Another thing that is interesting is that you can choose the room layout. Just you can choose, for example, an auditorium or a traditional classroom or a room size in a U format. And we are designing new formats right now, which is very interesting, like trying to create a more casual virtual spaces where people can interact in different ways. And in addition, we can create breakout sessions inside GoBrunch. And it's a little bit different from other platforms because you can create your sessions in advance and you can reuse your sessions. And once your students already know the way of reaching the breakout sessions, they can join without you. And that creates a very interesting environment because sometimes you can visit them, you can see, okay, you're here, guys, let's get back to the main classroom. And instead of you bringing them back, they come by themselves. You just create some, free experience to all the attendees and students. And when we see some statements like this one, like it is lovely, made, cozy, and warm, it's something that it's really nice because it's exactly what we had in mind when we designed it at the first time. And it's really nice to see, people using. We have right now educators from all around the world, and we tried them not only with the technology, but also with advices, and just try to show that we have, there is a human aspect behind. It's not only the technology. And sharing best practices of teaching online is something that we are doing constantly. All right. Another thing is interesting is that GoBrunch is free with no time limit, and you can have webinars up to 400 people. And we have some features which are paid, but you can definitely create as many webinars you want for free. and, you know, check how it works. All right. Before we just finish, I just want to, let me just close my screen and share another window here. Okay, this is pretty much the screen of GoBrunch. I have here my team here working with me. And as you can see, we have this real nice chat box that you can move around. We can see who's typing, with also minimize the anxiety that you have. Sometimes we ask questions that we don't know if people are there. And once we see people typing, it's way better. We feel a little bit better because we know there's someone behind, just like Julio is typing. Thank you, Julio. And pretty much how it works, we click here on broadcast. We can turn on our camera. Let me just turn on here. Yes. Yes, we can just choose a microphone. And one of the interesting things, we can share a presentation here. Let me just show you this. And yes, once we share the presentation, we can change the slides during the presentation, which is a little bit different. We can just navigate the slides here inside the classroom. And this is interesting because you don't have to keep switching windows. All you have to do is to click on these arrows at the bottom, and then your students will be able to see the same slide as you. And yeah, you can just change your slides, and then you can see where you are and where your attendees are, your students are. And by clicking on them, for example, clicking here on Julio, I can see a little bit more about him. You can see on this instruction box here. And we can also turn on the microphone and camera. And this is different. As much as we can do like other platforms, which is you can speak at any time. Here you can force, like you as a teacher, you can turn on the microphone of Julio. If we click here on the camera, for example, we just send a request for his camera. Yeah, just muting here. Yeah, thank you. And now we have his camera. We have the microphone, and we can see a small dialog box above his avatar, just showing that he's talking. Okay, and this is pretty much the overall experience that we have. Just a quick overview. We have way more features, but I think we were able to make a summary of everything. And yeah, people, let me know if you have any questions. Just let me know by the chat or just use the microphone, whatever you feel more comfortable. Solveig, do you have any questions? Tess, Refna, Iris?
Yeah, hi, I'm Solveig Jakobsdottir. We have two Solveigs here.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Very nice to see part of your presentation. Sorry, I'm one of the organizers for the EduCamp, so I've been going to all of them, you know, on and off. So I look forward to seeing the recording. But I must say your environment looks very lively, and Solveig was introducing it to us the other day, and it seems that it's more visual in many ways that the ones that we've been using. That you can sort of get a feeling for being in a space, or is that?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Every seminar room, you can choose a room format. This is just one of them, which is pretty much like a scholar room. But you can choose different formats, different room layouts. And yes, I think the idea is to have a warm environment where you can see everyone, and you can see who's leaving, who's joining, and you don't have to keep switching windows to see your presentation. Yeah, it creates a different experience for everyone, and that's the purpose of GoBrunch, you know, to bring a more human aspect behind the virtual experience, right? The virtual space, the virtual classroom. It's pretty much the idea.
But would you say it's as robust in terms of the sound quality as like the Zoom program, or
Sorry, you mean
as robust as good sound quality in even if you have many people join?
Yeah, it's very robust. You can have up to 400 people in a same room. You can choose like a large auditorium that we have. We have a big infrastructure. We have learned a lot with the pandemic because, as you can imagine, from one week to another, we have 20 times more users. But yeah, it's that's why we work really hard with our team to keep everything stable and robust for everyone. And the quality of the video is really good, and the screen share is in high definition. Pretty much, it's a really interesting experience. And of course, the background is nice because we keep it in what we say like a vector, which means everything is sharp and we can see very clearly all the elements. But let me know if this answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
you're
so
welcome.
I don't have any more questions.
Hi, I have one
Yes.
question.
Sure.
When I saw this picture, the slide that's on screen, the round, then I thought of, is it possible to like split the participants into talking groups or groups of like for chat or?
Oh, breakout sessions, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's totally possible. Let me show you how it works. Let me just close the broadcasting here. As you can see, this is a very different, but as you can see, every seminar room has an arrow at the left or at the edges, just like a floor plane. And once you click on this arrow, you end up in this really nice digital atrium. And you as a teacher or you as a student, you can navigate through this digital atrium in order to reach the breakout sessions. In case of this event, in case of this webinar here, we created two breakout sessions. Group 1, which is up here, and group 2, which is down here. Once we click here to join, we can set the room layout that we want, and as soon as we pick a seat, we're gonna be able to, just be here, and everyone will be able to share the screen. You can upload this PowerPoint presentation, you can share your screen, or you can either share a YouTube video, which is really nice. By doing this, let me just share my screen just so you can see. I can share here my PowerPoint, and yes, that's pretty much how it works. And then each one of these students can resize individually and make the setup individually. And you can share more than one screen at once as well. But usually in the breakout sessions, we recommend, one of the students to be the leader and share the screen, and then everyone else would collaborate and work together. And then at the end, you can return to the main classroom. It's not like you are bringing them back, but you can just ask them, okay, guys, you have more 5 minutes, and then let's get back inside our seminar room, our main classroom. And then we just leave by clicking on the arrow. And we just get back here, the main classroom.
That's great.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I'm gonna type my mail here on the chat if my keyboard works. Okay, yeah, but yeah, thank you very much for watching the presentation. Just typing here my email on the chat box. If you have any further questions, just email me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much, and yeah, looking forward to see you in GoBrunch.